Welcome to the January 2023 meeting of the Kingston Centre of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada. Preceding the meeting content, there will be a view of the agenda and contact info for the Centre. The meeting was recorded on Zoom and edited with the Windows 10 video editor.
Welcome everybody to our meeting of 2023. The last time we got together was February 2020 in a meeting. Even though we've been together through the summer, that's different. So I want to welcome you all back to the Kingston Centre and to our meeting. So welcome all new guests. We have new members, David Parsons, Robert Crombie, and Lawrence McAlpine have joined the Kingston Centre, and it was listed in Regulus, which has been released this week. And I just want to welcome those who are on Zoom as well. Sorry you couldn't be here, but twisting around to look at you. I just want to say land acknowledgement is that Queen's University is situated on the territory of the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe Nations, and we respect that. And since this is our first hybrid meeting, we've got a few things going on with it right now. So if there's technical issues, bear with us. And that's, we're gonna debug this later this week and find out what we can do better next month. So just some announcements. Wednesday social Zoom time, the email will be sent out to the center chat list. So if you to get in onto the social, let us know at kingston@rasc.ca. We're looking for volunteers to help run the Zoom social, so if you're interested, let us know. Queen's Observatory Open House is on January 21st at 7 p.m. Looking for some volunteers for the deck. Telescope is on site, weather dependent, of course. And our next meeting, hybrid live here in room 226, Ellis Hall, and on Zoom February 8th. And our guest speakers will be Tim Trenadue and Joe Gilker, and they'll be talking about the Lennox and Addington Dark Sky Site and astrophotography. So to start off our meeting, we have David Levy with a poem.
Can Kevin interrupt for 2 seconds and say, Susan, how's our sound coming out there on your end?
Absolutely perfect.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm done.
Well, thank you very much. And I'd like to add my welcome to this wonderful Kingston Centre meeting. I'm glad we're trying the hybrid. And I think that's going to be the default mechanism for most astronomy group meetings in the future. So I'm glad we're doing it here in Kingston. My quote for tonight will be the poem that I love to do when I was a graduate student at Queen's by Gerard Manley Hopkins. I am like a slip of comet, scarce worth discovery, in some corners seen bridging the slender difference of two stars. But when she sights the sun, she grows and sizes and spins her skirts out, while her central star shakes its cocooning mists. And so the comet comes from fields of light. Millions of traveling rays pierce her. She hangs upon the flame-cased sun and sucks the light as full as Gideon's fleece. But then her tether calls her. She falls off, and as she dwindles, sheds her smoke of gold amidst the sistering planets, and then goes out into the cavernous dark. So I go out, my little sweet is done. I have drawn heat from this contagious sun. To not ungentle death, now forth I run. And on that note, back to you, and thank you for letting me do this.
Thank you, David. Awesome, that is great. Is Andrew online?
Question. So we're going to be it's really unique. We've got to nice job. Nice job. I like it.
Okay, so that was interesting.
Not yet? Okay. I see Stan Runge from Winnipeg is here. Awesome. Okay, well, Andrew, we might get him later on. He might be joining a bit late, but we will carry on with our guest speaker. And now for Scott's introduction. Scott Young is a member of the Winnipeg Center and past president of the RASC. He is a planetarium astronomer for the Manitoba Museum. When not working at the controls of Dome at Home and the planetarium, Scott is taking photometric observations at home and submitting them to the AVSO. Scott is also a musician and an author. Scott can be found on Instagram at MBSkyGuy or Facebook at Scott the Skywatcher. But most of all, he is a great friend to many in the RASC and to the Kingston Center. Scott, over to you.
Scott was muted.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, it's not a Zoom meeting unless somebody says, "Can you hear me now?" Right? Well, thanks a lot, Kim. It's great to be back with Kingston. I've got a long history as a remote participant of the Kingston Center, and it is especially humbling to have David Levy open for me. That's never happened before. So that was an unexpected treat. Thank you very much, David. So my name is Scott Young, and I do astronomy stuff for a living, which might sound great, and often it is. And I'm going to tell you today about one of the unexpectedly wonderful parts of my job that sort of grew into its own kind of thing. You'll have to bear with me because we have some technology that we'll be using here as well. And so hopefully this will work. Hey, that looks like it works. Okay. So this is where I work at the Manitoba Museum, specifically in that copper-clad dome there. That's the planetarium. The people that funded it back in 1967, when they put the money down, said, "You're not allowed to name it after some company." So it is just the planetarium at the Manitoba Museum. And I've worked there since I was a kid. I started there part-time in about 1990. So you can do the math. It's an old school planetarium in many ways. We have an old Zeiss planetarium projector. We have concentric seating sort of sitting around the campfire, but we've upgraded it a number of times. And so in addition to our wonderful old Zeiss projector, we have Digistar video, and we took out some seats and put a stage in there so that we can do special school programs, and we can do a whole variety of different kinds of things. We've had rock bands play in there. We've had Klingon weddings in there. We had our first drag show last month. So we try and use the theater for all sorts of things. And I'm really lucky to work in a place where the museum folks who sort of run the show are open to any kind of crazy ideas that I come up with. So I have to give them some kudos. Back during COVID, the planetarium, like many facilities, shut down. And something that's a bit unusual about our facility is that we're not an arm of government. We're not a provincial museum or anything like that. We literally have to make all the money we use to keep the place open through ticket sales. So shutting down was a crippling kind of thing. And we had to basically very quickly pivot and find a way to do what we did anyway without having people come into the building. And so we all threw a bunch of ideas up on the wall, and one of the ones that was thrown up was, hey, let's do an astronomy talk show online to keep the audience and sort of cultivate the audience. And we didn't want to just repeat what we did in the planetarium, because we knew that the planetarium would reopen one day, and we didn't want to be competing with ourselves, giving away for free what we wanted people to eventually pay for. So we just decided to try it and see what would happen. And I took inspiration from a number of different places, everything back from, I don't know if anybody remembers the old Star Hustler TV spots with Jack Horkheimer, where he did sort of little astronomy snippets. If you've ever watched David Letterman or Jimmy Fallon or any of those kind of late night talk shows, we took some inspiration from there. And also from the RASC Center, because in many ways, we were going to be doing the same kinds of things that would prove to be very useful for the RASC Winnipeg Center as we moved to online meetings and then moved to our current hybrid format. So we came up with Dome at Home. And so Dome at Home is an online astronomy talk show. Currently it's on hiatus because I'm currently on leave from work, but it ran weekly for a year and a half and then bi-weekly for this week is actually our 2nd anniversary. So I'm going to give you a little taste of what Dome at Home is like from an audience point of view, and then I'll talk a little bit about sort of how we put it together and how we have grown a surprisingly loyal and a large community around this show that was essentially just supposed to be filler so that I had something to do so I wouldn't get fired. So here's how we begin. Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Dome at Home. I'm your planetarium astronomer, Scott Young, and we're broadcasting here from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, in the heart of Treaty 1 territory and the homeland of the Métis Nation. The show tonight is a special one created especially for the Kingston Center, RASC, and we're going to talk a little bit about ourselves. Okay, this is a bit meta. Doing a show about a show as a show is a little confusing, but we put together just a very simple video theme song, essentially, so that we had an opening. We wanted the format to feel like you were watching a TV show, or to have some kind of kickoff. I didn't know how important that would be until I mentioned casually in the show one day that I didn't really like the stock music that I had bought online for $6 or whatever. And we got half a dozen audience members submitting drafts of the new theme song, and it suddenly turned into a contest. And so the song that you just heard was actually created by 2 of our viewers, Sebastian and Genevieve, who are 12 and 14, and they basically took the content of the show and came up with a theme song for it. So that was pretty cool. Something as small as the theme song really resonated with the audience, and it was very, very surprising. And we'll see some more of those surprises a little bit later on. So the show normally opens with some announcements. We very much like an RASC meeting. You talk a little bit about what's coming up in the planetarium. Sometimes we'll show some trailers or things like that. We'll talk about any upcoming live events. That's something that Dome at Home got big into, was whenever there was a live event that we could live stream, we would do it. And it would almost always be cloudy, and it would almost always be minus 35 degrees. And we literally had some shows where it was me sitting out freezing in front of the telescope, just telling people, well, it's cloudy and we can't really see anything. But we had thousands of people watching basically me suffer for astronomy. So that was very surprising as well. It's amazing what people will watch. But it became very obvious, and this is something that's no surprise to RASC members. Space sells. Space is really popular. Astronomy, people all have an interest in it. And when you present it in a way that is accessible and really aimed at sort of the beginner, it can really provide an entrance point for a lot of people. We started looking at our statistics on our Zoom meeting and where we were getting people registering from. And we were getting people from Malaysia, and we have some loyal visitors down in Connecticut. And there's the Texas crew that we give a shout out to every week, and so on. This is an international kind of program. So we're reaching many more people than would ever come to the planetarium's doors on a regular day. That's one of the I shouldn't have been unexpected, but it was kind of unexpected, unanticipated benefits of being online. Suddenly you're open to everyone. So we started our show in the beginning of I guess it was January 2021. And the pandemic had already been raging for a while, and people were starting to look for something to do at home. And I think, as you may have just found out there as well, astronomy really hit home here. The idea that you could go out into your backyard with your family, with the people that you're already isolated with, and look at the sky became really, really popular. And we found that we had to sort of program the show for a variety of people, because you've got folks tuning in all over the world. You've got folks tuning in from an apartment at Portage in Maine, where you're lucky if you can see a star or two. We have people from rural areas. We had the whole shebang. So we really had to try and make things accessible. Even if the people couldn't go to a place to look at the stars, they might be in an apartment building, they might be shut-ins, they might only be able to look out a window which only faces one way, they might not live in a place where it's safe to be out at night. We really had to think about what can we give people that provides them this astronomy experience and will still work for them. We sort of had to get ourselves out of our bubble of, I live in the suburbs and I have a backyard and I can stand out in it at night without fear for my life and so on. It was really eye-opening, and it really made us evaluate not just Dome at Home, but all of our programs in terms of how are we being accessible? Are we reaching the widest possible audience? Okay, just going to get... So the first 6 months of the show, we basically had a small but loyal audience. We had some people that joined us right away. We were lucky enough to get a little bit of provincial COVID funding and launched the program. And we needed something to sort of hang our hat on. And I thought back, and I remember being at a General Assembly one year, and someone did a presentation on Helen Sawyer Hogg. And she's always been a hero of mine, just a really inspiring communicator. And we decided, her book, The Stars Belong to Everyone, was the perfect sentiment for what we were trying to provide here with Dome at Home. And so The Stars Belong to Everyone sort of became our catchphrase for the first year of the show or so. And every show would open with a little bit of a rundown of introducing Helen Sawyer Hogg to presumably people that had never heard of her before. We actually wound up not doing that as often because so many of the audience have been watching every show that they all know Helen Sawyer Hogg really, really well now. But the idea that The Stars Belong to Everyone was just a great way to bring people into astronomy. And so it started off kind of what you would do in an RASC meeting. We did a little section where we would have stellarium up, and we would show the constellations and focus in on, when the moon is going to be near Jupiter or those kinds of things, giving that general astronomy stuff, really focusing though on the people that probably don't have a telescope, the people who are probably looking at the sky, maybe for the first time, and they don't know the constellations. Maybe they don't even know the Big Dipper. So we always started with the brightest things first. Look in the south, there's the brightest thing you can see is Jupiter. And we'd use that as a reference point rather than, the North Star or cardinal points or things like that. People may not even know east and west if they live downtown and are completely disconnected from where the sun sets and things like that. So we really rethought the way we would do sort of a presentation on the sky. And it seemed to pay dividends because we really had the opportunity to hear from all of our viewers. We got a lot of feedback on what people liked about the show, what they didn't like about the show, what they wanted to see more of. People started emailing me to the point that I had to stop giving out my email address because I was literally getting no work done. Because all I was getting was, I like to call it fan mail, but sometimes it was criticism, sometimes it was feedback mail, I guess, for the show. So now we have a special email that avoids me having to give out my work one. I'm sure that you all use Stellarium or have discovered it. If you haven't, free planetarium desktop software, probably the best thing since sliced bread, and a wonderful program to introduce people to the sky. And you can tell people about it and they can download it and use it in their house. So I don't use those big round star maps anymore that sort of show the sky on August the 1st at 11 o'clock and August the 15th at 10 o'clock and all that kind of stuff. Those are really confusing to people, at least not to all people, but to many people. We generally push them in the direction of get Stellarium, and it becomes much more intuitive for them to sort of figure out where things will be in their sky, and that can really help them. Plus, of course, you can do all the great, I don't have a telescope, but if I zoom in on Jupiter, I get a great view of the moons. Oh, look, they're all three on one side tonight. We don't have clear skies here. I don't know if what you're like, but this is a nice feature of Stellarium. So we did a little sky thing like that. And then we would also do a segment that we called Cool Space Stuff, because there was a bunch of, SpaceX was launching satellites and people were reporting these UFOs, these strings of pearls in the sky all the time. So we wanted to talk about those. There was stuff going on with the space station, things like that, all of that kind of stuff. We wanted to talk about it. And so we had this segment, which was just cool space stuff. And it would be whatever happened to be upcoming in terms of in the worlds of satellites and space exploration and the Mars probes, things like that. When the latest Mars probe, and particularly the helicopter Ingenuity, landed in the summer of 2021, it was a big deal. And we followed that mission week by week and gave people the updates. And they still ask, how's Ginny doing? How many flights has Ginny had? About 6 months into the show, we wound up reducing our staffing. I had, at this point, had my own Paul Schaefer to my David Letterman. My colleague, Mike Jensen, would basically run the chat and moderate the chat, because, when Zoom came out and we started doing Zoom meetings, we heard all about all these Zoom bombings and how people were going to come in and say all sorts of inappropriate things in your meeting and stuff like that. So we had someone moderating our chats, and I'll show you that stuff in just a second. That was really helpful because I had a second voice to talk to. I mean, those of you that have seen me in person know that I can talk forever, but I think from an audience point of view, it's really nice to have that back and forth, and you can have people asking questions of each other, and you can have the sort of the interplay that is really makes it a little bit more casual, I think. And we found that when Mike was a big part of the show, we would get more questions asked from the audience. People would feel more comfortable to participate because it was already a conversation between two people. So joining a conversation is different than interrupting a speaker in that way. So that was really a change in the way the show went. We basically were told the planetarium is reopening. You can still run the show. You should still run the show. But unfortunately, Mike had other duties because he's basically in charge of the science center, which we're attached to. And so I couldn't get his time for free anymore. So I had to figure out how to run this entire show on my own. And luckily, the whole world was moving in the direction of online stuff. And so we had a number of great pieces of software. So I'm going to show you a little bit about how we run the show. Some of it is probably familiar to you, and some of it may not be familiar to you, but it's all really easy stuff. And it's all stuff that we use in the Winnipeg Center for our hybrid meetings. I use it for live events. It's the kind of thing that is really useful stuff. Let me just maximize this here. Whoa, this is the Infinite Scott show. This is a piece of software called OBS Studio, and it is basically designed for broadcasting. And the view here is what is being sent out to your Zoom meeting, and it just looks like a camera. So basically, you can do things in OBS and just send it out, and any piece of software, whether it's Microsoft Teams or Zoom or any other kind of thing, just sees it as a webcam input. So that means I didn't have to worry about what's this going to look like on Facebook, what's this going to look like on Zoom, what's it going to look like in different kinds of teleconferencing systems. It all looks the same. It allows you to set up a whole bunch of different scenes, and by clicking on them, and I'll just click through a few in order here. This is just single mouse clicks of So you just wind up having all of these potential scenes, and you can resize cameras and put in different windows, and you can have your browsers, and you can have a view of OBS, and you can do all sorts of still images, videos, and things like that, all very straightforward. This is the scene that we use for when I'm doing a live interview with someone. You put them in the little boxes there, and it looks kind of like CNN, and people think, oh, wow, that looks really, really professional. But it's actually free software that is really, really easy to use. I won't say it's completely foolproof. There was a little bit of a learning curve, but it works really, really well. And so if you want to be able to do things even just as basic as, putting this little logo superimposed on the video, or being able to change between, different cameras and stuff like that, bringing everything into OBS instead of using just Zoom, for example, can be really, really useful. The other thing about OBS is that it doesn't just talk to Zoom. Zoom is actually, it's a great piece of software for meetings, and most of the RASC folks have been using it for their online meetings, but you have to set up a meeting, and you have to let people register for it, and you have to worry about them getting the right link and all that kind of stuff. People already have social media accounts. They already have places where they consume video, whether it's YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or any of those kinds of things. We thought, wouldn't it be great if we just used those rather than using a piece of software that we have to administer? Because when Mike was working with me, part of his job was to, do the stats from Zoom and set up all the meetings and make sure everybody has all the links and to deal with that. And it was not an inconsequential amount of time. So the great thing about OBS is that it can stream to anything, but it can only stream to one thing. And so we wound up finding a second piece of software, which I'll show you here. At least I hope I will show you here. I see that my window didn't quite look for the right spot, so I'm just going to reset that. There we go. There's a site called restream.io, and basically it takes your one source that you send it from Zoom or from OBS or from whatever, and it sends it to as many places as you want it to go. So basically, when we run our show, we are live streaming simultaneously to Zoom and Facebook, the museum's Facebook page, the museum's Instagram, the museum's Twitter, and the museum's YouTube account. And so people can watch on any of that. If I don't have a Facebook account, but I want to watch the show, I can go to YouTube and watch it because that doesn't require an account. And it then auto archives the shows on those different social media. So I don't have to go and upload my video to my YouTube channel later. It's already there. That sounds pretty good. The only downside is, well, I needed Mike to look at the YouTube chat and the Facebook chat and the Twitter chat to get all the questions, because part of the good thing about this show was that people would really participate. It was a running series of questions, and people would ask about the topic that we were talking about. They would ask other questions that we'd get to at the end of the show. There was a lot of participation from the audience, and it was very difficult to keep track of all that, especially once Mike was no longer with me. There was a lot of stuff that I just couldn't keep up with. It turns out, though, that Restream figured that out, and they came up with a wonderful chat program that basically allows you to have all of the chats talk to each other. So if someone's watching Dome at Home on Facebook and they ask a question, hey, what's that bright star in the evening? The software automatically takes that question, puts it to all the other places we're streaming to, YouTube and Twitter and Zoom and all those kinds of things. And it shows up in my master control panel, which is on the right there. And that allows me to keep track of every single comment. It means I can answer questions interactively and live. It means I can do polls. It means I can, see what the audience is interested in. It means that on the rare occasion that we do get someone that drops in that wants to post a bunch of links to, inexpensive Ray-Ban sunglasses or links to porn sites, I can see it right away and ban them. We've only had that happen 2 times in the course of 2 years of weekly programming, so it's not nearly as prevalent as we were led to believe, but it does still happen. And as a museum, as a family show, we want to make sure that people are not getting scared off by behavior like that. Really, really useful bits of programming. Now, Restream is not free. To be able to use it the way that we do, it costs $50 a month. And I'm lucky enough that the museum covers that. So I'm not personally out of pocket to make that work. You can work without Restream if you just pick one venue to stream to. I personally suggest YouTube because, first of all, it's where a lot of people go for video. A lot of centers have YouTube anyway, but it's also doesn't require a membership or an account. You can just go to YouTube and follow the link and watch the thing without having to sign in or commit to it. So those are our pieces of software we use to put the show together. We also use, as I mentioned, Stellarium. Most of our imagery is done just through PowerPoint, but I tend to use PowerPoint only as a slideshow. If there's text, it is this kind of text. There's a title. Binocular Challenge is something that we added into the show after about a year, I guess. We had a number of people that had joined the audience that were, some people had telescopes, some people used to be into astronomy 30 or 40 years ago and were just coming back to it with new family members or just because of the pandemic. So we wanted to add a little bit more. And we have a great contributor to the show, Ulrika Schreckenbach, who's got a set of 20 by 80 binoculars. And she was sending in her images and reports and things like that. It was just fantastic. So I asked her to put together a little piece. And so now we have our binocular challenges where Ulrika will come up with the object she's going to talk about, and I'll put together the maps. And she will come on the show and narrate the program, and I'll click through the slides, very much like you'd see in an RASC meeting, but again, really aimed at that person who maybe they have never considered looking at the sky with binoculars before. Sure, they might have some kicking around, but it never occurred to them to do astronomy with them. So we basically walk them all the way through how to find, in this particular case, the coat hanger cluster. And then, this is a little bit. There we go. There's how to find the coat hanger cluster. And in binoculars, it's a wonderful view. And these are all from Stellarium. So I'm not using any really complicated kinds of software. It's all the same kind of thing. We show them what it'll look like, and then we challenge people to observe it and to send in their observations, whether it's photography or drawing or things like that. We're encouraging a lot of sketching for the folks that don't have cameras. We put together a downloadable star chart for that object for each month and put it on our website so that people can, keep the chart with them and actually go out and observe the sky. And that's really been the goal behind Dome at Home. It's to empower people to get out and look at the sky and have success, which is, again, not a surprise to an audience of RASC folks, because that's what we do with our outreach all the time. But apparently it wasn't very common in the astronomy podcast world. There's a lot of great programs out there. Dome at Home is certainly not the first or the best of the astronomy programs that are out there. And I think a lot of people went to Zoom when the pandemic hit. But we really target the very, very beginner astronomers. And a lot of the other programs tend to be, here's some high-end gear, or here's some more complicated equipment reviews or things like that. And those are all wonderful too. One of my favorites is the Sunday Night Astronomy show out of New Brunswick. That show's fantastic. And they've got 3 or 4 people on camera able to do all of this kind of stuff. And it's a wonderful program. But our program just focuses on a really beginner audience. One day into the show, I forget exactly what it was, but I think it was a meteor shower, and we had talked about, it was the Geminids of 2022, sorry. And we said, hey, take your camera outside. and see what you get. And we started getting images, and now we get, dozens of images every week that get sent in to us by viewers. And so, it's been really amazing to see some of these people. They send in their first cell phone picture of the sky because they figured out how to make their camera work, and they're proud of it. And then 3 months later, they're sending in wonderful Milky Way shots, and they're sending in close-ups of the moon, and they've figured out how to hold their camera up to their binoculars and get close-up pictures and things like that. It's really gratifying to see these folks that have, sort of become exposed to astronomy through our show and then really grow into beginning amateur astronomers. A number of them have gone on to, get telescopes. I had the joy of announcing to one of our viewers that his wife had bought him a telescope, and it was in the hall closet. And so he basically ran down the hall and then brought it back, and I got him to turn his camera on so that we could see what the telescope was. That was pretty fun. I guess what's surprising is it's not just people that like the show. It's not that people are just enamored with the content or enamored with, certainly not me, but they've built a community. Essentially, we formed an astronomy club online around this show. And the club is not geographically limited. The club is not, I guess, probably not as high end as many of the RASC centers. We don't have those folks that are really, really at the top end of astronomy, amateur astronomy, like you have in many centers. But for the folks that are just starting out, it's really an appropriate kind of venue for them. And I was a bit surprised by that, because there are so many astronomy clubs and astronomy resources available. But I do realize that, even here in Winnipeg, we have a great center, a couple of hundred members, and lots of folks from beginners to experts. We have a beginner session at the beginning of every meeting, but then sort of by default, the rest of the meeting is not for beginners. And these sort of subtle biases that we don't see because we've been doing astronomy in the center for decades, and we've really learned from the people before us and so on. And the centers all sort of fall into the habits of this is the way we do things. When I was doing this show, it really opened my eyes to different ways of approaching the same kind of content. And that's gone for my planetarium show writing, that's gone for the other educational programs that I do, and how I approach the RASC as well. It's amazing how easy it is to become an old guy. I realized that I had become an old guy, and it's like, that's the way we do it. And yeah, there's this new technology, but it's not really that important. And then I realized, a bunch of the people coming into our astronomy club meetings now, they're not just uncomfortable. They're not just more comfortable with technology. They're uncomfortable without it. It is such a part of their DNA that you want to be able to meet them where they are, or at least halfway. And a participatory, non-linear astronomy club seems to work pretty well, because that's the other thing. Our show runs live, but it's also on the internet. You can go to the museum's YouTube channel and you can watch, please don't, but you can watch my very first episode. It was before we knew how to do color balance or had a good camera or understood which button turned the microphone on and off. It was, we went from the planetarium's closing to the show is being written in 3 weeks. So it was a very fast learning curve. But the point is, if you can't come on Thursday night when we do the show, you can watch it Friday morning or whatever and still participate and send your comments in and send your images in and do the binocular challenge and send in your drawings and stuff like that and still be part of the next show. And that really works as well in the crazy schedule. I've got a couple of kids and I've got, all sorts of other things that are happening as well. And the ability to deal with things on my own time is really wonderful. And I think that centers, of course, we have meetings at set times, and that's the way we've always done things. It does exclude some people. And I think that it's really helped me think about, well, how can we do things that maybe just aren't just the meeting, but make it available to people sort of after the fact. And I mean, you're doing that now with your hybrid meetings. You've got people that can Zoom in, you've got people in person. Congratulations for doing that, by the way. That is, not many centers are doing it, it seems. It's not all that hard, provided you have someone who will bang their head against the technology for about a week to make it work. And then once it works forever. So it's a really good way to bring people in. Okay, let me see here. This was a big surprise. The Canadian Association of Science Centers is basically like the, I guess it's the industry association for planetariums and science centers and aquariums and zoos and basically everything except regular museums in Canada. And they have a conference every year, an award show and things like that. And Dome at Home won best program for the year. Yeah, it was. Thank you very much. No, it was a big surprise. They put us on the short list, and so then I had to make a nomination essentially of ourselves. I had to provide information on the program, and they sent me, well, fill out this budget sheet of how much money you spend on the show and things like that. And it was a good thing we were spending $50 a month on that Restream account, because otherwise there was really no budget. It's literally just stuff that we put together. I mean, there's some time, I guess, but so yeah, we wound up winning this, and actually also the Association of Manitoba Museums awarded us their award of merit this year for Dome at Home. So that was pretty cool. I think mostly it's based on that community that we've built. You've got kids who have gone from, I'm interested in astronomy, to me and my dad watched this show, to I got a telescope for Christmas, to I'm taking pictures through my telescope, to I've made variable star estimates and sent them to the AAVSO in the course of 2 years. And that's really exciting to see someone, be hooked by astronomy the same way that I was hooked, and sort of it became a part of my life, and in fact took over a big part of my life for a long time. I got hooked by the total solar eclipse of 1979 that went through Winnipeg, but that's not the kind of thing that most people can count on coming through their hometown. So it's nice to be able to make that kind of avenue available so that kids can say, hey, I'm going to try astronomy. And some of them will say, oh, that was fun. Now what's next? And a few of them will be hooked for life. And that's kind of that's the goal. That's why the RASC is around. We have all of those folks that are hooked for life. This is my cat, George. Hey, George. And I have to tell you about George. George is a wonderful ginger cat. So he's a psychopath. And he occasionally will come and climb on my lap during the show. And the first time he did that, like I'm watching the chat through one window, and I'm going through my presentation, and I'm showing the slides, and the cat jumps up onto me. And as soon as the cat appears in camera, the chat goes wild. And people are just typing cat with 27 exclamation marks. And so I literally had to stop the show and introduce George. And I thought, okay, well, that was interesting. Over the next week, George got more fan mail than I did. And people wanted to know if George would be joining the show. Mike had just left. And so they were like, is this the replacement for Mike? Well, George can't do very good moderating on the keyboard. All he can do is sit on it. So, but George has reappeared a number of times. And whenever he does, literally the show stops and it's all about the cat. At first I thought, oh, well, that was a pain. It's distracting from the message of the show. And then I realized, but it's not just my show. It's the audience's show. It's this shared experience. And if everybody likes the cat, who am I to say no cat? So George comes back. Actually, it's funny. Now that he realizes how famous he is, he's much more aloof, and he doesn't come down and jump on my lap anymore. But he does continue to receive presents and fan mail and stuff like that. And so if you're looking for a way to boost your ratings, get a cat. That's all I can say. Every month we have our credits here. And I think a big part of why we get so much participation is that we put people's names up in the show. Of course, if they want to be. Our opening theme by Sebastian and Genevieve, we don't put their last names because they're minors, and that's at their request. But everybody else gets their name up there when they get their pictures done. And I think that for some people is a driver. And so it's nice to be able to sort of replace that. And of course, we just have to cover off our bases in terms of copyright and all that kind of stuff. So we do all of that. And we try and get people to support the museum. Restream has this wonderful thing where you can basically schedule comments to automatically post. So I don't have to type stuff in. I've just programmed it all in advance. And so, 16 minutes into the show, a comment comes up saying, hey, this show doesn't make any revenue. So if you wanted to donate to us, that would be really swell. And we've been able to get some support from the audience that way as well. So that's been really kind of gratifying. It's probably less applicable to an RASC center, but being able to even just to post things like, remember, please be respectful of other people's opinions, or if Scott doesn't answer your question right away, please don't type it 27 times in a row. We had one guy who basically would ask a question and then he would just copy it and then paste it into the chat over and over and over again and fill up the whole chat. He got a timeout. But it's really interesting because some of these folks would never come to an RASC meeting. They would never come to a planetarium show, but they're super interested in astronomy and, let's say, astronomy adjacent material. Lots of aliens, lots of UFOs, a few conspiracy theories. One time a flat earther came on the show in the comment section. It was a teachable moment, a very entertaining, teachable moment. So that is the downside of being open to everyone. But that's what we sort of always hear. Oh, you're going to get all these crazy people and stuff like that. The internet's full of crazy people. Well, yeah, it is. But most of them don't ever find my show. So it works out pretty well. Last year, we had about 48,000 people see the show, either live or on one of the YouTube or Facebook archives. Basically, that's the number of views that we had. And what's interesting, you can count stats on the internet all sorts of different ways, and marketing companies will charge you lots of money to tell you what it all means. Most of our views are people who watch the whole show. So it's like a whole 45-minute view. It's not like I watched the show for 3 seconds and then I click to something else. That's often what the clicks are. If you get someone for 3 seconds on the internet, you've done a good job, apparently. I don't quite see how that's the case. But we have basically an inordinate number of people watching the entire show, whether it's live or whether it's after the fact. Okay, let me see here. I had one more thing that I wanted to show you before we wrap up here.
Cool space stuff.
It is. Once we decided to keep cool space stuff around, again, we put together some music and we made a little video, and I got my colleague Mike as his last official act to give us a little narration. So this is how we kick into the segment Cool Space Stuff.
Yay!
Cool space stuff.
So that was literally 15 minutes of work with a downloaded stinger and just a piece of video from NASA that I sped up. And then I had Mike yell cool space stuff into a microphone a bunch of times, and I picked the best one. If for some reason I don't run that when introducing the segment, the audience will stop me and tell me that they have to run cool space stuff. And sometimes when the whole show is sort of cool space stuff because we're focusing on Artemis or something like that, it really throws people off if they don't see that little trailer. I don't know why little details like that make such a big difference to the audience experience. Maybe it gives it a level of pizzazz for some reason that is above just a person talking. Maybe it taps into the TV or the internet that they normally watch. I don't know, but it was an amazing way. Basically, it was designed as a little segment so that I could take a sip of water off camera while getting ready for the next segment. And it's now become part of our signature. So
Love that segment.
yeah, see, yeah,
Segment.
Kevin and Kim watch the show fairly regularly, and it's a great segment. I mean, it's nice to talk about all the cool stuff, but and I mean, really, it's such a broad topic. You can do all sorts of things with it, but that little bumper is amazing. So if you want to jazz up your RASC presentations, get a little 5-second introduction of your topic and get somebody to yell the title into your microphone, and it'll be great. So that's Dome at Home, and it's been really rewarding. It's almost certainly the best thing that I've ever done in the planetarium in terms of what I would call social impact. I mean, I've done things that, you know, make revenue for the planetarium and pay our salaries, and I've done things that win awards, and I've done things that are educationally valid and things like that. But I really feel that through this program, I haven't made money. I haven't made better grades. I've made astronomers. And I think that really harkens back to that original goal with, you know, Helen Sawyer Hogg and her great outreach career. I kind of feel like I'm, you know, standing on the shoulders of giants, but doing something that actually makes a difference in people's lives, because those people that have become astronomers now, there's no going back for them, for better or for worse, I guess. But they have changed their lives based on content that I've created, and that's really, really gratifying. So I hope this was interesting to you. And if you have any questions or anything like that, I'll be happy to make up an answer. Thank you. I see some.
Scott. That was wonderful. Yeah, I can see some wheels moving in Kevin's brain right now. So there's going to be some stuff happening.
I'm just going to turn the room lights on so Scott can
Room
see
lights
you
are
all.
coming on, and I think,
Nope.
does anybody have any questions for Scott?
Put up
Kim,
your
I've got
hand,
one.
we'll walk over and you can speak into the microphone. No, you can stay there. It's a very sensitive microphone.
Very sensitive. I was just wondering about, copyright, how you figure out what material you can actually use in your show.
That is a great question. And it turns out that there are two parts to that question. One is actual copyright. And we did find, for example, you can't just play music. I had to license the music that we use from, I use a site called Pond 5, and I basically spent one day just listening to a whole bunch of 10-second intros and until I found something that I liked. And then I paid I think it was $6 for a royalty-free, perpetual, irrevocable license. Basically, I can use it for anything that I want now. So that was how we dealt with music. Video, we generally take things only from NASA, from ESA, from places that basically release their material into the public domain. So sometimes there are images that are embargoed or whatever, and we can't use that kind of stuff. But it turns out that doesn't matter, because there's a whole industry that basically involves finding a video on Facebook that makes gets a lot of clicks and filing a false copyright claim against it, because Facebook doesn't actually have people to look at that. Basically, the algorithm automatically says, oh no, someone said you're using their stuff. We will just turn off your video and they will get all the money from your video. Now, the joke's on them. We don't get any money in our videos. We're not monetized. But I mean, there are places out there where you know, ads run and that, you know, the creator gets a royalty essentially. And so there's this whole group of fake people that will say, oh yeah, you know, that public domain video of the moon that NASA released, that's mine. And of course it's not, but it shuts the show down for a week while I file a counterclaim, which is just sending in an email saying, no, that's NASA, come on. And then the show goes back on. It's gotten a little bit better in the last few months, where they're starting to not just trust any idiot with a Facebook account that says, I own that NASA material. It's even happened on live shows. I'll be doing a live show with my own camera on the roof of my car out at Birds Hill Park watching meteors, no music, talking by myself, and someone claims that I'm violating and stealing their copyright. It's like, come on. So, but it is one of those things. We did have an RASC meeting where one of our presenters had a background song in his PowerPoints that we didn't know about, and that went out live, and the videos got pulled down right away, and we had to go in and edit the videos to take that segment out because it was copyrighted music. So that is something to watch for.
Okay, Andrew, did you have a question?
Oh yeah, thanks, Kim. So hi, Scott.
Hey, Andrew.
My name is Andrew. I'm Andrew Godfrey. I've been a member of the center here since 2019, and I'm currently the editor of the Regulus newsletter here. If
Great
it's
job.
any consolation, oh, thanks very much. If it's any consolation, we've had cloudy skies here forever. Like I finally saw the moon this morning walking the dogs.
Nice.
So I was quite happy about that. I just gotta say, you had me at Star Hustler. I mean. I'm old enough to remember begging my parents to be allowed to stay up to watch Carl Sagan on Johnny Carson. And I have to tell you, like, Jack Horkheimer is a personal hero of mine forever. As a child, that show and its format and the way that it was designed, I think really truly inspired people who didn't know anything about astronomy or the night sky to basically just go outside and look up. And as he always said, right, keep looking up. And so it's a fantastic model. And of course, I think for a lot of us now, like in this age where we have all this technology and all the things we can do, it's a format that I think that should be more embraced. So my question for you is this: like, you talked a lot about how you've identified your audience and the target audience that you're trying to reach, and obviously the engagement that you can get with people that are not really astronomers yet, but may try to be sort of that bridge or that gap, or you bring them into the astronomy circle. So do you think that Dome at Home is something that could be replicated? Do you think that it is simple enough that other centers could create a similar type of program? And also too, is it so bespoke that you think that it works for you guys out in Manitoba, but it may not work for other centers? So do you think it's replicable? And the other thing is, like, how do you identify, like you talked a lot about how you identified your target audience, which I think is really interesting, because like here at the Kingston Center, we have about 75 members or so. There's a lot of active members who show up at the monthly meetings, who are sort of, on the Zooms every week and that sort of thing. But we have a lot of folks, I think, that are really talented and really have a lot of things that they could share, but they're not quite there. So how do you, so do you have any advice or recommendations about how do you get the rest of your members to kind of show up, if you will, or how do you get them to engage?
That's a really good question. I'll do the second part first.
Okay.
We don't show, like, I don't put Damien Peach images on my show. I don't show Ron Bredisher or stuff like that. I don't show the amazing stuff that you can do, because first of all, people can see that already. But it does set a bar where people are like, oh, well, my image isn't that good. I mean, I'm at that point too. I was very proud of my Jupiter images until I saw a couple of guys in my center that are just blowing me away. And now I'm self-conscious. So I think the key is, if someone submits an image, it goes on the show. I mean, unless they submit 30 images and they're all the same, like I'll edit for length. But we had someone that took a cell phone picture of the moon. And if you've ever done that, they don't look great. Yeah. But I mean, compared to like the telescope views or the things like that, it's not the kind of thing that you would often see at, say, an astronomy club. But we put it on because the impact of that person seeing their image on TV far outweighs what everybody else thinks of it. Like, I don't really care if nobody else likes the image. They saw their own image on a show. That's validating. Now, I guess I'm lucky that we have enough people that are providing decent images, at least, and some really good images. And so the whole show isn't a bunch of faint, fuzzy, out of focus kinds of things, but that's okay. Like, if there are a few of those, you try and set the bar low in some ways so that anything is valid. We had people starting to do sketching, and it was just little dots and circles. And we would put them on because we would just talk about, and I have an ability to find sort of something nice to say about anybody. Secret, I can also find probably 5 or 6 not nice things to say about everybody, but I don't do that on camera. So it really, you want to be the show is designed to mentor. The show is not designed to show off the top end. In terms of how replicable it is, it's a bit hard to say. I think that this is going to sound really arrogant, but the personality that you have doing the show is important. They really need to embrace that idea of not being the source of knowledge, just being the facilitator of this conversation. Like I stop the show. If a chat question comes up, I will stop what I'm saying and address it. Like it's really, my presentations are filler in between chat comment and conversation. So that really helps people engage with the show. And I think if we didn't do that, it would be less open to people. You could probably do it anywhere, but you need to find something that makes it worth tuning in for, if that makes sense. Like there's already the Sunday Night Astronomy Show, for example, which covers a huge amount of ground. There's already some great astrophotography ones. You kind of need to find, like for me, maybe it's cool space stuff. Maybe that's the thing that I found that has made it, maybe it's George the Cat. I don't know. But you need to find something that will help you distinguish from everything else, because there are a lot of shows or podcasts or whatever out there that are of varying levels of quality. I guess the other thing. Sorry, go ahead. Oh, sorry, no,
it's that analogy. Like you can go eat at any restaurant, but you go to certain places for certain meals.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You have to have that special meal.
Yeah, and the meal has to be good. So you got to know how your gear works. Even though I'd never followed this rule, you have to know how your gear works. You have to make your production look a little bit slick. Like I bought myself a $29 green screen fabric that is hanging behind me, and it's hiding, the rest of things, but it lets me superimpose myself into the scene, and then I can point around and things like that. Oh, there's the edge of the frame, you can see. But you have to do it in a way that you've got good material, and it comes across relatively polished, because there's a lot of podcasts where someone just turns on their microphone, talks for an hour, doesn't edit, didn't prepare in advance, didn't really even have some pictures. They basically, you're watching them surf the internet and ramble stream of consciousness. And I don't think that engenders people to watch regularly unless you're somebody that is really captivating.
That's great. Thanks very much for that.
Yeah, no problem. Good questions.
Yeah.
There's some more in the chat here. John Harding is asking, thanks, Scott. I plan on stealing a lot of your ideas. If I give you credit, can I call it research? Absolutely. That's the that's John. Okay. Hi. Nice to meet you. Yeah. That is the way that we learn. I mean, I know, copyright and all that kind of stuff works against that, but really I learned all this stuff from the generation of RASC folks before me. Like I still describe meteor showers the way Stan Runge described it to me. When I was, probably 16 and he was 230 or something like that. Just a young lad for Stan. He's been around forever. I'm only saying that because I know he's out there. So, I mean, we all have just learned from things that we see, and I incorporate every time I see someone do a presentation, I either incorporate something from it or I see something that maybe didn't work, and I avoid that. So yeah, go nuts. Andrew Godfrey says, comment and a question, please. Okay, I don't know how to do anything about that. So.
No, I already asked you. That's
okay, that was you. Okay, great. Okay.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. All right. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Well, thank you all. Okay. Thank you all. It was wonderful to be here, and we'll do this again sometime. You should all watch the show Thursday nights.
Take care. Say hi to everybody out there.
Will do. Okay.
All righty.
Is that a quick question?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yep.
I used to live in Kenora.
Oh, yeah.
And there used to be a group of astronomers that used to go up to Reddit, if you know where that is.
Okay.
And there was the large pit up there, and they used to set up. Do you know if they still do that?
You know, I'm not sure. I've lost track completely of the folks out in Northwestern Ontario. I know that there was a sort of a core group of folks that was doing stuff,
Right.
but I haven't heard from them for a number of years.
Oh, okay.
Excuse me.
Because
So I'm not sure.
Yeah, one of the leads passed away, but there was several people from the University of Winnipeg that used to show up.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
do their studies, because it was absolutely like, it was like going into a black well, and you had nothing
Yeah.
but stars as far as you
Oh,
could see,
beautiful.
you know.
Yeah,
So
that area.
I was just curious, and the skies are a lot better than they are down here.
Well, you've got all that population over there, so I mean that's your problem. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Thanks, Hans.
Great. Thank you, Scott.
Okay,
Hang
thanks.
around if you want. If not, we'll understand.
I'm going to go check on the family, make sure they're okay. So thanks again. Okay.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye now. Well, that was awesome. That was excellent. Okay. Andrew, you are up for the talk on Regulus.
Yes. Okay. Thanks very much. Yeah, that was a great presentation. That was great. That gives us a lot to think about. Yeah. So hi, everybody. For those of you who don't know me or perhaps don't recognize me, I'm Andrew Godfrey. I've been a member of the center since 2019. And this last fall, I took over, I volunteered to take over as editor of the Regulus newsletter. Oh, geez. Yeah, okay. I may cash that in later once I realize how much work is involved. So, I just wanted to basically take a couple of, make a minute or two. I'm not going to make this very long, but I just wanted to say very briefly that, you know, I've basically given Kevin a bit of relief because he's done he did a stellar job at keeping Regulus going for so long. And I have a lot of experience in the past and in my day job, editing professional publications, academic journals, that kind of stuff. So I sort of stepped up and said, hey, listen, Kevin, take a break, take a knee, if you will. And I'll try to run Regulus and try to copy and do as good a job as he did for the next little while. So, but of course, the issue for me is that Regulus it's not my newsletter. I just want to make sure it's the center's newsletter. And it is really designed, first and foremost, not just to share information that we may already get from other news feeds and from the national level of the RASC website and the weekly newsletter that we get downloaded, but it's really about an opportunity to show all of the great things that all of our members do here at the center. So my focus going forward is going to be, I've got a couple of goals kind of set for myself and also for the center, but I just also wanted to take a moment to sort of share that with you and also then to ask you for your help, essentially. So first and foremost, I want to use Regulus as an opportunity to promote all of the great work and all of the great effort that is made by all of the members that are here at the center. We're one of the older RASC centers in Canada. Kingston has been a fantastic center. We have exceptional members who have done exceptional things, and we really have this sort of vehicle, if you will, in order to give us that opportunity to promote that. So that is probably my primary goal, is to sort of show the best, if you will, of all of the members that are here at the center. And as was mentioned in the presentation that we just saw, it's not just about the top end stuff and people that sometimes feel that, if you're a professional astrophotographer or you take the best shots or you do the best work and that kind of thing, that you'll always get shown. I want to hear from everybody, because I joined the center in 2019 and I'm a rookie. So I've loved astronomy since I was a kid, but I'm relatively new getting back into astronomy and I'm just getting back into the programs. And I appreciate that we have members that are at every level of sort of, participation and activity with regards to this hobby. So my goal is to not just sort of showcase the best of the best, because I know that there are many of you that are fantastic astrophotographers and are veteran astronomers and do great things and have had minor planets named after yourself and all that good stuff. But I also want to capture the other side. All of our sort of medium to newer members, or perhaps, the not so extroverts, but perhaps the introverts, that are just really interested in doing their hobby, but are not really sure about how to share. So I just want to make sure that everybody is aware that Regulus is an avenue for everyone to share what they are passionate about. It doesn't have to meet a theme or a standard or goal. It's really a moment for us, and like as Kevin has said in the past, it's our record, right? It's our ability to capture our legacy and all of the great things that we do here at the center here in Kingston. So I want to make sure that I get as much diversity and as much breadth, if you will, in terms of participation and submissions to the newsletter. So I invite everybody to participate and submit whatever they can to make Regulus the best newsletter in all of the RASC centers across the country. I would like Regulus to be the newsletter that everybody looks at. And so that is my personal goal, is to make us shine, add all the chrome and make us look great. So from that, what I need from you really is just to show up. You don't have to be a professional writer, a professional photographer, a professional editor or layout artist. I just need you to send me stuff. Right. I have been a professional editor for about 15, 20 years now. I was a member of the Editors Association of Canada. I'm really, really good at publishing stuff. That's kind of why I volunteered for this thing. Perhaps I'll regret it later, but that's okay. But what I really want to do is I want to get you engaged, and I don't want you to feel stressed about doing it. I know there are lots of great people in our center that are doing great astronomy, and I want to share it with the rest of our members. So you know what, if you have an idea, if you have a photo, if you want to post it onto our Facebook page, if you want to share it with Kim, if you just want to share it amongst the members, or you want to put it in the newsletter, that's great. But if you have anything that you think is worth sharing, I would like to ask you and invite you to send it to me. And my email address is in the newsletter. Just send it to me and say, hey, Andrew, I'm thinking about this. Do you think this is a good idea? And we can talk about it, and I can walk through it, and we can figure out if it's something that we can include in the newsletter. And the last thing is to remember that you guys are a lot of you are experts, right? But there's a lot of newer members that are, they're a little bit intimidated. They're not really quite sure. They're not really sure about ask questions. I want to share the wealth of knowledge that we already have, which I know is enormous within our center and within our membership. And so if you think you've got a good idea about, you've bought a new piece of kit, you've bought a new eyepiece, you've got a recommendation for a book, like Kevin did, like just in the last issue, he watched a documentary on Amazon about one of the Mars rovers. It was a fantastic documentary. I'd never even heard of it. And when he mentioned it, I thought, hey, that's great. I went and checked it out. So if you've got something that you've seen, that you're playing with, that you're building, that you're thinking is a good product, please share it with me, and I will share it in the newsletter with the rest of the members in the center. So we get together every month, and we get together on socials on Wednesday, and we sort of share tips and tricks and what we're up to and all that kind of stuff. But like as Kevin has mentioned before, Regulus is our newsletter of record. And if there's going to be any history of our center and any legacy of our center and anything that we can really show off to the rest of the centers across Canada, we should try to get it into the Regulus newsletter so we have a permanent record, so to speak, of all of the wonderful things and all of the fantastic work that we do as members here, both active, passive, all every day and on weekends like myself when I have time. But whether you're a busy astronomer or you're a fair weather astronomer, I want to hear from you, and I want to include what you're doing in the newsletter. So this is my soapbox. This is my effort to get you excited and engaged, and to come out of your corners and share with me the stuff that you're working on. And I will help you put it into the newsletter so that we can share it with everybody in the center and across the other centers across the RASC. So I'll stop there and I'll get off my soapbox. But thank you very much for your attention, and thank you much for all your efforts. And I look forward to hearing from you as I build the content for the newsletters this coming year. Okay, thank you very much, Kim. Back over to you, and I'll take any questions you have now, or I'll take them offline later on. If you just want to send me an email, you go right ahead. So great, thank you again.
Great, thanks, Andrew.
It's Rosemary here. Can I make a comment about what he was just saying? It's important that we give the impression to people, newcomers especially, that beginners are welcome. Because when I first joined the club, I had been looking at they listed in the newspaper upcoming meetings, and for years, I thought, oh, I should go to one of these meetings. I was thinking it was a bunch of eggheads, professors, physics students and stuff. And I thought I was going to be totally, out of my league type of thing. And then they had a meeting. The wonderful thing was they had a meeting down at, they had a presentation at the Cataraqui Conservation Area. And it was just down the road from me. And I thought, oh, okay, I'm going to go down and see. And I got back into astronomy because Terence Dickinson came to the photography club, and he was telling us, encouraging us to take pictures of the night sky. And I thought, oh, this is great. So I got into that, and I was taking pictures, but I didn't know if I was good enough or whatever. And I brought a few pictures with me, and they did a nice little presentation, and I thought, oh, these are normal people. And I got talking with Kim and Kevin and Susan Gagnon and showed them some of the pictures. They said, oh, these are great pictures. You know, you ought to come down to a meeting, and welcoming. So I thought, oh, this is great. This is like the Field Naturalists or the Photography Club. These are like regular people. So when we put out our presentations, like what Andrew wants to do in Regulus, this is something that goes out publicly. And when people see that beginners are welcome, we're going to get more people coming in, because astronomy, it's like a science thing, and it can be very intimidating. And if people haven't met or they haven't seen a meeting or something like this, they're going to think, oh, well, you know, this is something out of my league. And they're going to hesitate to ask or whatever. So Andrew, it's great. I think it's great what you're doing to get this out, and we'll attract, you know, like the young students and people who, you know, retired and stuff, and they have an interest in this, and we'll get more people in. And like the speaker was saying, when people come in and they start doing stuff and they start getting into it, and you see them improving, like we've seen Mark Delorier when he's got his new thing there, and you've seen the vast improvements. And this is the important thing. We get them in and get them started. And, you know, I think a lot of people just don't realize that we're here and that there's so much of a vast resource, and that this is a lot of fun. So Andrew, thumbs up on that. I'll try to contribute as I can, but with the weather the way it's been, like all of it, frustrating, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm waiting for these stupid sunspots. I'm seeing X flares, and we're not.
You know, it's an
sparklies.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting follow-up, because, you know, I take a note from, so for example, for those of you who subscribe to Sky and Telescope magazine, you'll notice that about 6 months ago, they started a new section in the magazine, which is really for beginners. And I think that is very poignant in the sense that they realize that, you know, there's a lot of people that have been involved in astronomy for a long time. We're all kind of old guys and girls, you know, and we know our things, and they're really making a new effort to get the next generation of amateur astronomers engaged and interested. And they're really trying to make an effort to answer those really basic questions, like, you know, what is a Dobsonian telescope? What does it mean to have a dew cover? You know, how do you figure out your right ascension and declination? Those things that us experienced astronomers take for granted. But you realize that if you really want to capture, you know, the technology oriented, you know, sort of focused and enabled and smart, you know, younger generation, that, you know, you really need to kind of give them that gateway, and you need to give them those things. So when I do Regulus, like, I'm going to show off obviously the best of our most experienced members, but I also too want to make sure that we provide lots of interesting general knowledge that may get the occasional astronomer, you know, the member that is an amateur or kind of new, or even like myself. Like I still call myself a rookie in many ways, even though I've been with the center now for almost 5 years, but I'm still learning all the time from all of the other members here. So I really want to make sure that Regulus touches everybody in the center, so that we can get the best out of everybody in the center, because we've got a great center and we've got great members. So let's bring them out, and let's do it all.
Yay.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay, we have no more questions. Next up is Rick Wagner.
Okay. Want to be up front? Yep. Okay, here's a microphone. There you go. And I'm going to put the camera. Where are you going to stand or walk or move to the camera?
I guess I'll stay here.
We're recording it too. Susan's recording it. Right there.
The application. Share screen. Who knows? Oh, there we are. Yep. Oh, okay.
So everybody has to go all at the same time.
Try this month.
Oh no, that's now old. I'm working on something new. It's happening in the sky, or I don't know yet. Yeah. And how do I make it go? Okay, not much in the way of local events. 21st of January, it's already been mentioned, the Queen's Observatory Open House, which I highly recommend people show up for. There's a lot of interested people show up. Good talk usually beforehand, sometimes by one of us, and then observing upstairs. BAA events for the past couple of years, of course, they've been doing a lot of online stuff that's tapering off quite dramatically now. However, they do still hold some hybrid events, just none this month, but into February and March, there's one each scheduled. So look for those. They're very good events. They're really interesting. The AAVSO webinars, they've started up their new season. Two things that they've had going on, and maybe I should say three. Every month they have a session called AV Spec Open House. This is for people who are doing spectroscopy and submitting observations to their spectroscopy database. And it's basically just a question and answer session if you need help with, you know, how you're doing things or whatever. On the 19th of January, the 26th, they have the VSX Q&A, and VSX is their search tool. So you can go online there and you can look up any one of, I think they're up to like 500,000 variable stars, and it'll give you all kinds of information. It gives you links to papers and data and all kinds of interesting stuff. So this one talks to you about how to use the tool and so forth. There's, if anybody is interested in practicing their Spanish, there's also a monthly Spanish session on variable stars. I don't know what time of the month that is because I don't speak Spanish. 4th of February, another how-to webinar. They do these regularly on the first Saturday of the month. And this one's going to be on CCD, CMOS, and DSLR photometry. I think this is going to be kind of a sampler from their photometry course. The two deep sky viewing areas, of course, are pretty much closed. Well, I shouldn't say closed. They're holding no events through the winter, the cold weather. However, they are open for use, and they will start up their programs in the spring. Hours of darkness, it's very sad, but the sun is already coming back. I noticed the other day, whenever I do my observing log, I put in the time of sunset, twilight ends and sunrise, and I noticed that sunset is now already starting to get later than it was. The sunrise has been getting worse since mid-January. But anyway, so for those of you doing solar, the sun is of course coming back up higher in the sky. So from that viewpoint, I suppose things are improving. Up in the sky, tomorrow, Mars is stationary. You saw on Scott's thing, he had a stellarium up with Taurus and Mars. So it has been doing what's called the retrograde motion. It's moving westward in the sky. It has been slowing down, and now it's going to start resuming its eastward motion, which is not desperately exciting, but for instance, it's very interesting to go out. It's right in Taurus, near the Hyades and the horns of the bull. So it's kind of a really concentrated area of fairly bright stars. So, you know, just to go out once a week and just see where it is, how fast it's moving, watch it accelerate as it heads off. I have for tomorrow night, that's probably too early, but Comet C 2022 E3 ZTF is at perihelion. Now it's closest to the sun tomorrow, but it'll actually be closest to the Earth, I think, sometime in the next few weeks. It's expected to brighten dramatically. It's accelerating. It's sort of in, well, I have pictures later. But the ZTF, in case anybody's interested, is the Zwicky Transient Facility. So this is the old Auschwitz-Schmid telescope, which they have reconfigured, and it's got this massive CCD camera in it, like a foot across or something. And so they're doing surveys of the night sky looking for transient events. Last quarter moon on the 15th, new moon on the 21st, which is the date of the next open house. 22nd of January, Venus is going to be 1/3 of a degree to the left of Saturn shortly after sunset. Saturn, it's going to be fairly low. Venus is going to be nice and bright. So that should give you an easy guideline to seeing Saturn. And if you get out fairly soon after sunset, there will be a very thin crescent moon down below, 9 degrees below the two of them. So that'll be very pretty. 26th of, did I miss one? No, okay. 26th of January, minor planet Hebe is at opposition at mag 8.8 if you're collecting opposition events, minor planets. First quarter moon on the 28th. Lunar X is visible also on the 28th, and the next evening, Rupees Recta, the lunar straight wall, is visible. It's an interesting, you find it amusing, I find it amusing. Why is it that English people often use all the Latin names, the French and the Germans don't? They all use colloquial terms. Different. The 31st of January, we missed the occultation of Mars. On the 31st of January, Mars will be only 1/5 of a degree below the southern limb of the moon. So it'll be quite attractive at 1 a.m. in the morning. And getting into early February, our meeting is very early next week. So we only have one event, which is full moon on the 5th. Small bodies. So the comet on the 17th of January, minor planet Mathesis is going to be doing an occultation. Now, I don't know how well you can see this, but there's the comet starting in Corona Borealis and then moving relatively slowly, but gradually accelerating. And by the end of the month, it's way off up near Polaris. So it's expected possibly to get to naked eye, 6th magnitude, maybe 5th magnitude. So even if it isn't naked eye, it'll be easily photographed with like a DSLR on a tripod or through telescopes. So Mathesis, you can see here's the path as it crosses the US, Canada, and then off into Spain and Africa. It happens at about 9 o'clock in the evening. It's, if only I could read this stuff. The star is 9.4 magnitude. The asteroid is 12.9 magnitude. So quite a significant drop in brightness. I think it can last up to 7.2 seconds if you're on the center of the path. And there shows you that Kingston is on the center of the predicted path. And you notice the blue lines are the edges of the predicted path, and the red lines are the like 1 sigma estimates of, you know, if it's in sort of 68% error. It's so it's a well-known path, and so we're almost guaranteed to see it if it's clear. That's all I have. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Microphones.
We're gonna go through the members of the building report. We'll do the room first, and then we'll go to the drink.
Yeah, I was actually able to bring out and for a short time, I managed to be able to repair a stepper motor. So I've got on the telescope. So I've got now a drive on my big 12-inch SCT. So that I'll be able to go ahead and autofocus because I'm planning on spending a fair bit of time imaging minor planets. And I got to move really close, tight focus if you can possibly get it.
Can we give you a list?
Well, there's 2 on the list that I'm particularly thinking of.
We have at least 10.
Well, fair enough, right? So there are other people that can get involved in this as well.
Awesome.
Do you know where yours is right now?
Yes, it's closely following the sun and will do until July when the finally headed into dark skies, but it's in twilight and setting. So yes, it will do that all through the spring. And so anyway, at least it's in the northern hemisphere. When I was first told about it, it was sort of like minus 63 degrees declination, and I thought I may never see this. But I have high hopes. Sometime in the summer, being able to do so.
That's awesome. It'd be great if you can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think I'll see it.
Well, you'll be able to catch the, I tried with ours and I got VGO to take a picture.
Right.
And I wanted to do it next night.
Yep.
But even though it was in the queue to do, they didn't do it until several days later. And by then the first one was, forget it.
I also actually tried as well with one of the horses and tried taking images for about 10 minutes and an hour apart for about 4 hours, right in the frame where it should have been, and I couldn't be that.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I thought I had
I
it.
have some other ideas that I'm going to try to make sure by having the telescope track the small asteroid and having the stars keep on and having it build up, and I figured out how to do it. So
We look forward to seeing what you get.
yeah, it's practice, practice, practice.
That's right.
Until it becomes the real sometimes.
That's right. Okay, excellent. Thanks. Mark.
I was out on Saturday and again last night. Hopefully 20 different images and different things. Some of the moons of Neptune and Uranus. And I had some images here on a stick, but I can probably want to come back.
Sure we do.
We'll leave it to the end or something.
Yeah. Get them loaded up and then we can show them at the end. Yeah. Okay. Brian.
No, I don't have anything right now, but I do have my eye hoping for common sense. Yeah.
I think we all are. Yeah.
We all are.
Rick.
Well, not a whole lot given the horrid weather we've been having. I had sort of half a night on the 26th of December, and then I got 6 images on the 8th of January, and then all night last night with both telescopes running. So I haven't actually looked at anything, but I do have big plans for the coming sort of dark of the moon session where there's definitely some more attractive images.
So you had no cloud last night.
A little bit, but not enough to affect the photometry.
Interesting.
How do you plan on imaging around the 30 millimeters of rain coming?
Yeah, after that's over.
Lori.
We were in Costa Rica, sun went down because it was, instead of being in a shallow angle, it was like directly above the sun. Also timed the sunset and was amazed at how fast it is.
Cool.
And we tried for the Magellanic clouds, but it's always a little too hazy close to the horizon to pick them up.
Devin.
Okay.
Nothing. Okay. Donna. Steve.
Yes, I got a few hours in last night, first time in a month.
Yay.
And I got a fairly good image of Jupiter and a really nice image of Mars. And following mark, I took an image of the Crab Nebula, and then a really nice image of a little galaxy in Camelot Pardalis. And then clouds interfered and candy goes.
Excellent. Kevin, you're in the room.
Hi, am I here? No. December the 12th was the second last imaging session that I've done, and it was the last one of 2022, and we managed to get out on Saturday, the 8th, and boy, was it cold, boy, did the clouds come in, you name it, it happened, but we did our first imaging run of 2023. And my New Year's resolution, I did 46 sessions in 2022. I plan on doing 47 sessions. Oh, all right, more than 50 sessions in 2023. And of course, it's not up to a very good start so far, is it?
Okay, I'm going to go to Zoom now.
Or you're going to tell us about your observing.
Oh, my observing, I've done some solar. I did some solar. I posted some images to the list yesterday that I got 2 solar flares that happened. And they were within minutes of when they actually peaked. So it was quite interesting to watch them blossom. And that is about it. That's all I've done. Of course, daytime observing hasn't been any better than the nighttime observing. So you just grab and go when you can. So going to Zoom, let's start off with Andrew.
Yeah, so I've been actually doing a lot of reading as opposed to observing. So the NASA JPL has dropped their decadal survey, which is sort of the long-term strategy of what NASA plans to do in terms of spacecraft exploring the solar system and so on. So they've sort of laid out their map or their floor plan, if you will, on where they're going to put their priorities in for what spacecraft are going to go, which planets, and what they're going to do. And that goes to also this book here, which I'm reading. It's a book called The Mission. This is a book about the basically all of the work that went into creating the mission that will provide a spacecraft that will go to Europa around Jupiter, because they're going to try to not only orbit that moon, but they're also going to try to put a lander into it and drill through the ice to see if they can get into the liquid ocean that they know is below the ice form, and see whether or not there is a potential for life in that liquid ocean below, because all of the other sort of markers, if you will, are there. And if there's going to be life anywhere else in the solar system, Europa is one of the prime candidates to go look for it. So this is a very interesting book. Just came out this past year. I'll put a little blurb in it in the Regulus newsletter. But beyond that, I haven't done much of the telescope or observing because it's cloudy skies, of course. But so I've been sort of redirecting my energy into just doing some background reading. So if you're interested in the exploration of the solar system, like I said, Decadal Survey has been published. And there's actually a YouTube channel video if you want to watch the actual conference where all the JPL NASA scientists and all that get together and explain why they've chosen the missions that they've chosen. It's all just come out. And this book, The Mission by David Brown, has just hit the bookshelves in the Indigo and chapters. And so if you're interested in that kind of stuff, it's all there. It's good reading. So I recommend it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. And we have John.
Oh, not too much going on this past month with all the clouds. Just a quick scan the last few days from the airport in the evening hours, and a quick look at the sun on the weekend when it poked through the clouds, but that's been about it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Susan.
I did get out when there was a break in the clouds, and it was very nice. I didn't do anything very exciting. I just looked at some of the large obvious things that were available, but it was just nice to have the observatory open and be outside for a few hours, and yeah, it was nice, and I'm looking forward to more clear skies, maybe. That's it.
Okay, thanks. Bruce Elliott, you wanted to present something?
Okay, so thanks. First of all, I just wanted to say I got out, can't remember exactly, about a week ago, and looking out over Lake Ontario horizon. I guess this was when the full moon was just sort of coming up, and I had a really good view of the winter hexagon stars, and got some pictures of that, and didn't have my telescope out because it was just so darn cold, but I got some good resolution pictures, and I'm wanting to you know, so to get to know those stars a little better in the next couple of weeks, maybe. And because about more than half of them are actually double stars, with a smaller star rotating around a big one, and various variations of that. So, and then I guess the other thing I wanted to say is that I found a book that I purchased for our. Can you see that, or it's backwards? Okay, that's funny. It's coming out backwards on the screen. I don't know. Can you see that or not? I'm not sure.
Yeah, we see it.
No, it's
Okay.
fine on our end.
Hmm?
It is good on our end.
Yep.
Oh, good. And so it says everything space, and there's something from the National Geographic for kids. And there's some really good, really excellent photos in it. Here's a variation on the I think that's that. I'm not sure which
Yeah, we see it.
the nebula that is, but I think it's actually I think the Horsehead Nebula. Anyway, it came late, but I wanted to. I'm planning to gift that to my grandson, and I guess that's sort of mostly what I wanted to say personally. I did want to say a few things about outreach, which sort of comes out from that, but maybe you want to carry on with the rest of the people sharing their.
And then we'll come back to you, Bruce.
Yeah, why don't you do that? Yeah.
Okay. All right, great. Gerald?
Not much to report. Things are pretty quiet. Thank you.
Oh. Hans?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. No observing. The weather has just been very poor, just haze and cloud. But I did manage to play around with my receiver, listen to Jupiter. I was hoping to have a recording to present, just a 30-second blurb on that, but technical glitches, like my computer tonight has packed it in for some reason. And also listening to the sun was rather interesting. So hopefully next session, I'll have a couple different audio clips to present, just what it sounds like. That's it.
Okay. Hans, Kevin
Great.
here. If
Thank
you ever
you.
figure out how to re-record them at 60 times speed or something like that, I've been trying to do that with the solar and the Jupiter stuff, because otherwise, you know, a 10-minute audio clip, people don't want to listen to me playing a 10-minute audio clip, but I'd be fascinated to see it sped up and see how it's.
Oh yeah, that's it's easy enough to do. Is it depends on the recording. Sometime when you have a minute, we'll go online together and I'll show you a couple different things you can play with right on the computer to do that.
Sounds good.
Okay, excellent, great. Okay, Keith?
Is Keith here? Yes. I just have to find him. This mouse
Maybe
is
we'll
not
come back to
working too
Keith.
well.
Malcolm?
Hi there.
Hi.
Not much going on here in the backyard observatory for the last little while. I did try to look for the comet ZTF or whatever it is. At about this time, it's supposedly about midpoint between Polaris and Cassiopeia. And I went out there last night with my binoculars and it was like -10. And I had the patience for about 5 minutes, and then I wished I had a go-to telescope pointing at it, and I went inside. But other than that, I'm working on a couple of mosaics with the telescope in Chile on IC 2118, the Witch Head, and M42. And hopefully those will be uninterrupted and I can get all the data for those. That's about it for me.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay, Mark K.
I think Mark is having some audio issues that we're going to troubleshoot later.
I am driving, so I won't do a report.
Oh, we can hear Mark. Can you
We can
repeat
hear
that
you.
again, Mark?
He's driving, so he won't do a report.
Oh, okay.
Let's see who's next here. Peggy.
I haven't done any observing lately, but I have been invited back to do an astronomy presentation at the Royale. So I'm prepping that. I've decided to do what we learned from the lunar landing as my topic, and we'll see how that goes.
Wonderful.
That's
Kevin
about it.
here, do you need any supplies? We have moon charts perhaps.
So,
Let us know if you're looking for outreach material. We may have something that's really applicable.
No, I get 6 to 12 people, and if they stay awake for the whole hour, that's a good thing. It's not required.
Okay.
Okay, excellent. Okay, next on the list is Q.du. No,
No, it doesn't sound like it.
Rosemary.
Well, Carrie's been doing her usual wonderful job of dragging me outside in the middle of the night. So there's just been like naked eye, visual, watching them. When we do see something, watching the moon waxing, and now it's starting to be waning, and cursing these clouds and stuff. And I was standing there staring at Mars last night, and I'm happy that Orion is coming around towards the south. That's my favorite constellation, that section of the sky. Last night I was wanting to set up the camera. I've got that window in the basement that I cleaned up real nice and can set the camera up to do series, but we had milky clouds off to the southern half of the sky, so photography just hasn't been happening. And on the nights that it was clear, it's like you wimp out. We're getting at that age where we're wimping out when it's like -10 with a bit of breeze. And watching space weather, I'm chomping at the bit. It's very infuriating that we've got all these sunspots, and we've had, 3 X flares this week, and there's no CMEs coming. And I have a feeling that when it does come, we're going to have cloudy skies because the weather report doesn't sound too good. And I was scouting out at the neighbor's beaver pond. The wonderful thing about the beavers, they have chopped down a bunch of little trees out of the way, and there's a view to the north, which is something we don't have here. And so I've been scouting out a place if these auroras come, and if it's clear, and if I can get my truck out the laneway and go over to the beaver pond, then I've got a great place that I want to try to shoot some scenery there. But
they shoot the beavers.
Well, I ripped their dam open and I lowered it down so they don't flood my road and stuff, and it's iced over, so they can't do anything. But they have cleared out a nice path for me there over there to the dam where it's open to the north, so I'm very happy about that. So we'll see if it happens. We'll see what weather conditions are. We're supposed to get snow and stuff. And the thing I'm loving about this winter with the lack of snow, I mean, I know Mark's going to shoot me because he loves to go skiing, but I'm just loving this, that I can walk around and scout around. But other than that, not any actual good observing. So hopefully you'll get some clear sky soon when the moon is new.
Okay, thanks, Rosemary. Tessa. No.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, I think I'm turning into a armchair astronomer. I really don't enjoy the cold weather in the winter or the bugs in the summer or whatever. I do read a lot, and I'm really enjoying all the wonderful things that are turning up with the James Webb Space Telescope. And I'm watching with horror all these satellites that are going up and polluting our space up there. And I wonder whether in the future we'll be even able to send any manned vessels up there because they'll be hit by hundreds and millions of bits and pieces.
Oh, that's awesome. It's great that you came to the meeting. Thank you. Okay, I think we've got everybody. Keith, did you want to tell us what you saw or what you've seen?
If you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Oh, excellent. Okay, that's wonderful. For a while there, I had a problem with my microphone, wasn't working. Okay, I haven't really done a whole lot because, as you know, we've had very bad weather. But I did make a comment the other day when Rosemarie was complaining about who interrupted the weather. And I said it was me. And I picked up, I get a little background here. I got my right eye is dominant, but I have a problem with the eye. I can't see properly in it. So when I try to focus on my camera, what I think is focused, when I take the picture, it is not. And I started to Google and I found a site that said, because I was looking for, if you can get on the camera, the diopter that you can adjust so you can see through your viewer. But I never found one that you can see on the LCD screen. Well, lo and behold, there's this thing. So I went out and bought this, and this fits on the back of your camera. So end up looking like, so this mounts on like this. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
So anyway, this has an adjustable eyepiece here. So yesterday I went out and I tried this thing out because I just recently got it. And unfortunately, the one size fits all. But the problem is that was too big to fit on the back of my camera. So the buttons were covered. So I found a piece of coupler, rubber coupler, and I cut it, and then I put it inside of it. And now that gives me a slightly smaller footprint, and it doesn't cover all my buttons. So yesterday I did take a picture of the sun, and it looked like it was in pretty good focus. I have to do a little fine tuning. I did put it on the on our email there, and I didn't make a setup here so I could pull it up. But so anyway, it looks like I'm going to be on the road to take some pictures.
Yay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was quite happy. I was quite happy with yesterday's, and I figured that somewhere along the line that if I can see what I'm taking a picture of, then I might come up with something worthwhile. So anyway, so there's my toy.
Excellent. You did catch the flare. I didn't get a chance to write back to you, but you did catch the flare that was in the southeast quadrant. In
Yeah.
3184.
Yeah, so it's yeah, when I was watching it yesterday, as I was viewing, you could see the changes that were happening on the prominences. There were some were quite obvious and some were fading away, and it was amazing how much the sun was doing in such a short time.
How fast it goes, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's nice to be able to capture some photos of it too. And actually, when you look at them, they're in focus. That's the big problem. Everything was out of focus.
All right.
Yeah, I've accomplished something.
That's excellent.
So that's it. So now you got to wait for another sunny day before I can get out and try it again.
Yeah. Okay. Bruce, did you want to go back and talk about the science rendezvous?
Yeah, yeah, okay, so there's two things really. First of all, actually, if I could just say something briefly about the science fair.
Yeah.
Which is on, so the actual fair date with will be March the 31st. And there will be we'll get some information about project submissions before that, but so the majority of the show of the fair is going to be in person. And so we're going to be back to the pre-COVID format. There may be, having said that, there may be some virtual ones coming in from further away, because during COVID, they had a number of people as far north as Charlotte Lake, for example. And so there is the possibility that but the main thing will be an in-person thing. So we'll be looking for some volunteers from our group here to perhaps assist with some of the looking at the posters and questions of finally choosing a winner. And that's really boils down to a one-day, one afternoon event on the 31st, but we would have correspondence ahead of time. So I guess I'm asking if I don't have to tonight get back immediately on the show here, but I'll send maybe something out on the little more detail out on the chat, so that if anyone's interested in participating in this, it's a really excellent experience. You know, to see the kids are really these days, especially after COVID and even during COVID, they'd become very, very excited about, you know, meeting people and getting out and hearing about new things, you know, other than just looking at something on a book or on the screen. So this, I think this is going to be a really fantastic experience to actually go to the fair and meet some of these really exciting young people, enthusiastic. So that's the main point for number one. Number two, then getting to the Science Rendezvous. Science Rendezvous this year is going to be on the 13th of May. And I think Kim, you circulated, I think, already the most recent correspondence from Linda Cogan. And so there's about a 6 or 7 point form that we need to fill out. And I think that I'm hoping that this people who were involved last year will carry on with their enthusiasm this year, and maybe there will be some new people as well. But I think what we need to do is by February the 1st, we have to submit this form to them with some answers to some specific questions. There's a few sort of formalities, like you know, what kind of logo do we want to have, that thing. But getting down to the main point, we want to we have to put together there's two. It's sort of the regular sort of booth and anything new that you want to add to that. But the new thing that they're asking for in the form here, from what I can see, is they want a one-page PDF with suggestions for at-home experimental or activities that could be shared with family, and, you know, just or some of their school and that sort of thing. In other words, they're really trying to make it beyond just the 13th of May, but have people, doing the actual encouraging some of the participants to go beyond that and really find something exciting to develop. Again, it would following up on Kim's notice that she sent out in the chat. Maybe I could follow up with just a reminder to people to think about this and maybe maybe confirmation of the who wants to actually be involved in the booth again this year, so we can get those people focusing on the key things. So Kim, do you have anything more to suggest about that? And if there are any of the people who are already on the at the booth last year, whether they want to say something at this point, it might be helpful.
Well, we'll have to confirm with those that helped last year if they want to do it this year. Plus the exec will look at the documentation that was sent out. I mean, there's been a few ideas floated around of what we could do for a hands-on item that people would take away because that's what they were looking for. And so I've sent a note off to Samantha to ask her about a condensed version of the ETU that was like a one-page summary that they had for Parks Canada last year. That if that's already in the works and it's already done, why can't we get a copy of that? And that could be something that could be handed out with a planisphere and stickers and the Sky News and that sort of thing. And then I'm not sure, but I'm not sure if that's the same night that Queens would be doing an observing session, that whatever they got that afternoon, they could take up to the observatory that night and could be, used on the deck.
So are we wanting to put for, offer the same booth to look at the suns we did last time? Is that?
I don't know, because I haven't heard anything from Queens yet. I haven't heard from Mark Richardson or anybody, so.
Yeah, okay. So, okay, well, I guess.
Because I know Connor's not involved with it, so it might be up to the two that are running the observatory.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking, what about the having people from our own from RASC-Kingston, like they did before, to offer the telescope and the screen and that kind of thing to look at the sun.
We'll have to ask them to see if they want to.
Yeah, okay, all right. Well, that's just sort of setting this, planting the seed right now. Hopefully, that'll be, okay.
Okay.
So we'll just continue to communicate on the chat.
Yeah.
On this.
Sure.
Okay, thanks very much, and for everybody's
okay, thanks, Bruce.
Everybody interest.
Okay. Mark, did you want to show some pictures?
No.
Okay, well, then 8:59. I guess if anybody has anything they want to say, or if they want to
Tell Rosemary she's off the hook because the skiing was great at Tremblant.
Well, we may get a day's worth of skiing in here before the rain comes back.
Roger should be careful about going home because it's snowing and the roads are a bit slippy right now.
Oh, right. Thanks, Mark.
Roger says thanks, Mark.
You just made Roger's night. Yeah. Okay, well, if there's nothing else, we shall officially call the meeting done. You can stop recording, Susan. Press the button.
Good night, everyone.